But this slideshow will be available online to everyone, so you don't need to worry about trying to write this all down. You can also look at, as I said, canopy across watersheds. So what this is, again, we had to show another bar graph, but current tree canopies in green and possible additional canopies in orange. And so you can start to see places where there's bigger orange chunks. So St. John's River is green, but it has even more room to be green. Big Econ has room to be greener. Lake Hart, Little Kiva. So we have all this information. How does this translate into planning? We've given the county all of the data that we generated for this project. And so they can look into the future to plan where to plant and also to set goals for each area. So right now, there are no goals because the county didn't have a baseline. So now you have that base information. The other thing that's interesting about this project is because we have very fine-grained information, we can know whether the tree is in a natural forest, or is the tree over a street, or over a parking lot, or is it in someone's lawn? These are different situations that will affect how much water the tree can soak up. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to Chris to talk about policies and codes analysis.
Sure. So we had to give you a pretty picture because everyone loves pretty pictures first before we jump into codes. But now here we are. All right. So one recommendation that we have for the county is to really work hard at protecting mature trees during development. We know that a mature oak tree can take up 4,000 gallons of stormwater. And everyone, pretty logically can see that if you plant a really small tree, let's say even 2 or 3 inches DBH, about this, it's not going to take up 4,000 gallons in a year. So again, just modifying codes and ordinances to protect those trees better. We also recommend, in the spirit of protecting trees better, to use steel tree protection fencing in places where there's heavy machinery or there's something that can knock that tree protection fence down really easily, or so that someone can't just step over it and pile a bunch of construction materials at the base of that tree and compact the soil. So putting that in codes and ordinance language as well. And you can see in this small graphic, I wonder if I can do it.
They don't work on this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you have to use your fingers.
Sure. So now that we've gotten past this, so we're trying to protect as much of the root protection zone as possible, again, to really help keep taking up as much stormwater. We also recommend that when crews are going out, tree crews are going out, that they keep records of tree removals, of tree maintenance. There's also something called a tree risk assessment. So when a crew goes out and does a tree risk assessment, put that into a software, put that into a database that can be accessed. So you always have up-to-date tree information even when you don't have a new canopy model like is out in the hallway, out in the lobby. We also recommend to develop a complete green streets policy, and we're gonna say yay to the county right now because they're working on a complete streets policy, but we're just saying make sure that you include vegetation in the streets. And that can sometimes mean that you don't have one parking space because you're using a bump out and you're putting a tree there instead, but we're saying that's really important. We want to include that in the policy. We're also recommending to develop a stormwater utility fee that is more than $0. And okay, Amber word again. Everyone can silence their phones, but so we're recommending that the county goes through and looks at the stormwater maintenance activities that need to occur, and also look at how much tree planting they want to do, and develop a stormwater utility fee that can at least partially help fund those things.
You're talking about credit for doing.
Also, yeah, Karen is saying that if you have a certain amount of tree canopy or you have a certain number of trees already on your property for homeowners, that you get a credit and that stormwater utility fee can be reduced, right? Because we just proved that trees take up stormwater. So why wouldn't your fee be reduced if you are already taking up the stormwater on your property? Okay. We were made aware that the county had a tree nursery at one point in the past. I'm not sure if any of you remember this. I see some nods. We're recommending that that tree nursery be reestablished. We heard from you all in the first community meeting that you were having trouble getting access to really high quality native plants. So one way of doing that is first to contact the current nurseries and ask them, but also if you really still can't get those plants, just to reestablish the nursery. Okay. We also recommend having a forestry emergency response plan in place, and that might sound kind of far-fetched, what is this thing that we're recommending, but it is literally to help you when you have some natural disaster, a hurricane, any other kind of storm. How do you deal with, number one, cleaning up after the storm, number two, which is the less focused on part, how do you replant? And unfortunately, a lot of that needs to be, a lot of the funds for replanting, they require you to have data about before the storm happened. You can't have the storm happen and then you say, oh, now I need funds. It doesn't work like that. So you have to have all that data on hand so that you can submit. So we're saying, develop the forestry emergency response plan, which details how you collect that data so that you can replant what's lost. Okay, we're also recommending the analysis that we perform, which is the map here, and you obviously saw it in the lobby, recommending that be done every 4 years. So that is so you can see change across the county. You can see change across time and really understand what's happening with the urban forest so that you can make changes if you need to about how it's being managed, how much is being removed, how much is being planted, all of that. Okay, and another handful of recommendations and things that we really suggest that the county adopt are to expand the low impact development guidance Developer Horizons West, and that is in draft form, and so I know David is thinking about that now, but just expanding that to the eastern part, to the rest of the county. Also to set a goal for the amount of forested open space to be preserved. When you look on the land cover maps, you'll see forested open space, and those are really high quality land habitat cores. So we're saying put a higher emphasis on protecting the higher quality forests. We're also recommending to establish tree canopy goals by watershed. And again, now the county has all of this data. Before they really wanted to do this, but they didn't know how because they didn't know how much was there. So we're saying now we have it, so we can make these goals. Also to develop an urban forest management plan and adopt the related ordinances with that. So urban forest management plan is another plan just to help you understand what actions need to be taken with the urban forest and better protect it. So the entire point of this, why we're here, why you all are here, is we really recommend planting more trees, and more than that, protect more trees. Alrighty. So I know we have about 25 more minutes. What we're gonna ask is that you all follow us back out to the lobby. It'll be like follow the leader. And you just give us more input. Ooh, it's bright, sorry. So for example, which key initiatives do you really support? What do you think the county should do as a result of this study? Because we presented a lot of information and a lot of data here. Now the point is to move forward with it.
Yeah, so if you have a couple of questions, we'll take those for the whole group and then we'll move.